Hello students, this is your instructional video on how to do your week 10 inquiry assignment. It is a rather big assignment that is kind of coupled between 3 other assignments, so I do want to go over that with you and what to expect. Now with week 10 we do not have a concept assignment, so you have to make sure you do the reading in chapter 7 sections 1 through 4, and then that way you can get the information you need in order to do these assignments. Now week 10, when it comes to the inquiry assignment, which you see right here, we have to do the week 10 online lab Crumple Zone Gizmo first, and the reason for that is because it gets you familiar with the gizmo, and it also gives you some research values and some numbers to use in your inquiry assignment. So you have to do the week 10 online lab first and make sure you complete that, because when you get into the week 10 inquiry assignment, it's going to ask you to look at your week 10 online lab for information. Now when you open the week 10 inquiry assignment, you'll see the document that I have on the right, and as you scroll down it'll give you some ideas of what you need to have done before you start the assignment. Gives you information on how to get back into the gizmo, which is what you'll be using. And then it gives you the situation. So you need to make sure when you start this assignment that you read the situation carefully, and then you choose one of the 5 groups that are listed, and that's going to give you the scenario that you're going to work towards. So again, the group that you're choosing will be the one you're working towards, or the scenario you're working towards. You don't have to do all 5, you just pick the one that is interesting you the most. Now if you pick group number 5, there's an extra credit opportunity because you have 2 scenarios that have to basically mesh together. And the reason why this is extra credit is because in order for group 5 to work, you basically have to do group 3 first and then do group 4. And you have those grouped together, and based on the data you get from group 3 will determine how you set up group 4. So group 5 is basically 2 sets of trials versus just doing the one experiment itself. Now you'll see blue. Anytime you see bolded blue, that's a question you need to answer. So this is something where you would state which group you're working with, so I know. Then you have a pre-lab workup, which is basically the research. Now this is where we have to open our week 10 online lab Crumple Zone Gizmo, and it tells you what problems in that to look at in order to know what information you're going to pull from that. And basically it's just going to give us information on what can be our constants, what can be things that provided safety in car crashes in the gizmo prior to this inquiry. And that's going to be able to transfer that information into our experiment so we can actually save time there. Next is the procedure, and this is going to be where I want you to determine, based on your scenario, what your independent variable is and then what your dependent variable is. And then you'll also have constants. Now the trick with this, and this is what throws students off the most, is that when we look at our variables, we have to keep in mind that with independent variables, you can only have one thing that you are manually changing. So whatever your independent variable is going to be the data that you will change manually in the lab. The dependent variable is going to be the one thing you are measuring. What is a result, what is data we get from the actual trial. And then the constants are going to be things that have to stay the same for every single trial. So since we are changing an independent variable, or one thing or one part of the crash, we cannot change anything else. So when you look at your data table, with that being said down here, if I pick an independent variable of, say, CZR, if I pick that independent variable, that means my other values under car parameters have to stay the same all the way down. If they don't, it's not done right. You will have to do it again. So make sure you follow that. And then crash results are on the right side right here. And then again, based on what you're calculating for your dependent variable is going to determine what column you pay the most attention to. Now it tells you how to alter these. It tells you how to alter these on your gizmo right here below your variables. So make sure you read that in order to set up your scenario appropriately. And then once you get your trials done, there is a graph that you'll have to make. And again, when you're graphing something, you have to graph your independent and dependent variable only. So make sure you're graphing the right numbers. You want to make sure that you have your axes labels, your title, and then If you need a key, make sure you have that. If you don't need a key or a legend, then don't worry about it. If you need help on that, week 3 Graphing Greatness is a good review spot to start. Otherwise, you can always email me and I can help you with creating this graph. And then once you're done with your graph and your data table, I want you to write a conclusion. Now, the conclusion is very important. I'm looking for in-depth answers. You need to be looking at your data table and your graph table. And make sure that you're writing down what trends you see between your independent and dependent variable. You can also talk about your constants here. And then you should also be looking at this and saying, what are other changes I can make in a previous, or I'm sorry, not previous, in a following experiment. So if I wanted to repeat this, but I wanted to change one of my constants and have a different value for that constant, could I do that, and why would I want to do that? So again, conclusions are very important. It's something where you do have to think about this a little bit more in depth. So that's going to be the setup for your inquiry assignment. And then your week 10 discussion, share your results, is going to be where you post your information from your study here for other students to access. So if I click on that, it's going to have threads here for you. You want to click here for your instructions so you know exactly what to do. And then when you're done reading your instructions, so let's say I get into the instructions and I read what I need to do, and I'm ready to post my answers, I can click the back button. And then I can find the group of which I did my inquiry study on, and I can enter that and then post my results. So again, make sure that you know what group you're in and you're going to follow the directions when it comes to posting these results. Now, if you end up doing anything wrong with your data, let's say you have an independent variable but your constants aren't staying constant, you will have to revise this assignment. It's going to be an automatic 10 points off because you didn't do the actual study correctly. So make sure that you have one variable you're manually changing and the rest of the values are staying the same all the way down. And then if you do have to redo your inquiry assignment because of the variables, I will have you redo that and then also repost your information for your groups so those students in your group can see values according to that trend and not something where it's all over the place and bouncing around and we can't really tell for sure what is causing the results, whether it's your independent variable or whatever constants that were supposed to be constant that we're changing otherwise. So again, if you have any questions on this, please email me. Otherwise, that's what to expect for the 3 assignments that are kind of mashed together. Again, make sure you go in order. You need to do the online lab first, then the inquiry, and then the discussion. And then after that, it's a new form of assignments.